Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another Board of Trustees summary and update. This is for the February 27th meeting of the Board of Trustees. And before we got into the meeting, we had a couple announcements past Monday night. The first is that Recreation and Cultural Affairs ID badges are now available. You can get them at the Baird, which is 5 Mead Street, or you can go online to their website and learn a little bit more about that at thebaird.org. Up until May 15th, the badges are $30 a person, and after that, the fee will increase to $35 a person, so definitely make sure to get those early. We also announced that we had a budget workshop, which we have since had. That budget workshop was last Wednesday night here in Village Hall, and our new administrator, Barry Lewis, presented his preliminary take on the budget. He still had draft numbers, so didn't want to make those numbers available yet as they were still kind of up in the air. But he and I had a very long conversation about the budget, and the conversation that we had in the budget workshop seemed to be that hesitantly, cautiously, that things weren't as bad as we originally thought they might be. We think that we're going to be able to bring the budget in under 2% this year, a 2% increase, which would be really great, and doing so while still preserving our surplus, which is obviously extremely important to do in case there's any emergency or large expense that comes up in town. So with the new administrator, it's always a little bit of a new process. We're hoping to streamline things a little bit more than they have been in the past. So far, that's going really well. Basically making sure that the budget is in really good shape when it gets to the board, and then that the board is able to make policy decisions that they may need to make on the budget. But that really most of the work, most of the line-by-line work is being done by our administrator and by myself, and we're presenting our budget to the Board of Trustees. So that looks to be in pretty good shape. Again, still cautiously optimistic about that, and we'll have more updates in our next meeting about the budget. We also presented a proclamation to our Deputy Clerk, Sherry Golden. She took part in a really incredible program at St. Barnabas, where basically if you have someone who needs an organ donation and you're a donor but you don't match, you can pair up with someone else who's in the same situation, and by doing that, by going through this exchange program, both the people who needed new organs, in our deputy clerk's case, it was her husband, were able to get them. They're both recovering and doing really well. What Sherry did, was incredible, and obviously, we certainly encourage people to try and do that. If next time you go back and renew your driver's license, make sure that you mark down an organ donor, and obviously being part of these exchange programs where you help somebody you don't even know is a really incredible thing to do, and we're honored that she was able to do that, and glad that her and her husband are both recovering well. We also had a presentation from the Community Relations Committee for Villager of the Month, which went to Bradley Takahashi. So congratulations on that. He's really spent a long time getting involved, especially in the arts communities and music in town. So congratulations on that. Adam Lerner from Seton Hall University gave an update from Seton Hall about what they've been up to there, some events that are happening. Seton Hall is working with Main Street, and they've been doing a really great job of working even more with Main Street this year. And they have a freshman open house in April, and they're working with Main Street on basically creating a map, kind of highlighting different things in town. They can give out to the freshmen to kind of introduce them to the downtown. In Seton Hall also, they mentioned that they're holding their a women's conference on March 30th, which is a really big event for them. We went on to approve our minutes in our meeting, and then we moved on to a couple ordinances that were on first reading, a couple ordinances that were on second reading. The first one was a bicycle rack ordinance, and that was stricken and reintroduced on first reading, basically taking comments from the planning board on that ordinance. So that will be there'll be a second reading and hearing for that after the planning board was able to review it. The Special Improvement District ordinance was reintroduced on first reading. There were some inconsistencies in some of the exhibits that went along with the ordinance. Those have all been cleared up, and that passed 4-0. Both those ordinances passed 4-0. And so there will be a public hearing in this Monday's meeting for the Improvement District ordinance. Then Main Street did their quarterly presentation, which is available on the website at southorange.org. I'm talking about all the different activities they've done, It's really incredible, and I know one of the projects that they're working on right now that's really great that we're all excited about is working with New Jersey Transit to try and improve the train trestles and the space underneath those. Moved on to our public comment period, which as before, I don't like to try and sum up what people talked about, but certainly encourage taking a look at the minutes or watching the meeting for better overview of what members of the public spoke about. Then moved on to our discussion part of the meeting, and as you may remember, we used to have a conference agenda and a regular agenda. Now we have those discussion items from the conference agenda in our meeting, which has been working out really well as a format so far. The first one was talking about the charter review recommendations. We went through a couple of the main recommendations that the Charter Review Committee made, just as discussion items before we were to move anything formally. The board there seemed to be consensus to agree changing the name of South Orange back to South Orange Village instead of Township of South Orange Village. There's really no reason why the township is in there anymore. The title changes, which is something that the Charter Review Committee recommended to be changed from Village President to Mayor and Board of Trustees to Council. That was also put on a public ballot along with that first question, which the community did support by about 60%. That was something that for some reason the board didn't seem to want to move forward on, and made some points about the historical nature of it. It was disappointing to see them, not take the recommendation of the Charter Review Committee and not take the recommendation of the voters, which they did ask for in November. Stipends also, there seemed to be some consensus not to move those forward. I think there's a lack of understanding, perhaps, that not everybody's in a financial situation that allows them to pay for all the expenses that are associated with being a government official. I believe very strongly that there should be no income discrimination about who should be able to be a public official in this country, and that it's our responsibility to provide that means of relief for people who may not be in a great financial situation or may not be in a high income bracket. Hopefully we will get the chance to discuss these items again. I didn't feel as though we had a full enough discussion of some of these items in the last meeting, and addressing the concerns about the Charter Review Committee making these recommendations, the voters on the ballot in November wanting these changes, and why the board wasn't comfortable moving forward. There was a change to change the definition, so instead of being able to vote on an ordinance or resolution by the majority of members present, to change it to the majority of the governing body members. We also decided to leave it at this point with no vote on the budget by the village president. The way it's supposed to work is the village president and village administrator are supposed to introduce the budget to the trustees, which they then discuss and vote on. That's supposed to be the way it's done, and by the executive branch presenting it to the legislative branch, there would be no reason, and it would be inappropriate for the executive to then have a vote on the other side of it as well. There's also some discussion of moving our municipal elections to November, which I, for many reasons, don't feel is the right thing to do. I think we lose focus on municipal issues. We increase the possibility of partisanship being in our elections. We increase the amount of money needed in our elections because now municipal candidates would have to compete against county, statewide, and national candidates. So hopefully we will get a chance to discuss that more as well, as there seemed to be consensus to take that out from the Charter Review recommendations and pass that potentially on its own ordinance. So we'll get a chance to get into that a little bit more. The argument is that turnout would be higher. I guess my question would be, does a higher turnout mean that citizens are more engaged? And I think it's our responsibility as a governing body to engage people in a very sustainable way, in a consistent way, not just one day every 2 years to get them to come to the polls. We should have high turnout in May. It shouldn't matter when the elections are. People should feel the responsibility, should feel the need to go out and vote. And that's on us to convince people of the importance of that. So we'll get a chance to discuss that a little bit more. We also discussed moving the Board of Education elections. There was some consensus among the board to move the Board of Education election to November instead of in the spring where it currently is. That'll be a resolution in our next board meeting for the trustees to ask the Board of Education to move that. I still have some concerns that hopefully we can address in that next meeting that are similar to the municipal elections as well. We had an update about our village hall renovations, and our village engineer did talk to us about that. Our next step, which we'll be looking at on our Monday meeting, is hiring a construction manager. We're really excited about this. There's a lot of pieces that need to get into place. This is a beautiful building we're in, and I think we're all excited to keep this a historical building. but there's a lot of steps and a lot of planning that needs to go into preserving a historical building like that. We spoke about a redevelopment council, redevelopment attorney, which we're hiring, and that's moving forward. I mean, we should have a resolution shortly in one of our next meetings to hire that person to help us with redevelopment issues. Single-stream recycling will also be a recommendation made from the Public Works Committee in one of our next upcoming meetings to move towards that. Hopefully that will increase the decrease the footprint, the environmental footprint that we have by increasing the amount of material that's able to actually be recycled. A lot of towns have been moving forward with that, and I think it's a really great thing for South Orange to do, especially considering it's more cost-effective for the village as well as a better environmental initiative. We had a couple resolutions on the consent agenda, mostly budgetary, and we, as always, had our executive session resolution, and those items were the Villager of the Month nominee, the Sterling Pilot, SOPAC Consulting Report, Affordable Housing Set-Aside, OPEIU negotiations, Administrative Consultant Services, and Redevelopment Council. So those were the items that we discussed in our executive session. We went on to approve our bills after that, and we adjourned our meeting. I think there's a lot of discussion to have about the executive session, the charter review items that are before the board. Hopefully we will get a chance to discuss those things more, address some of the concerns that I have, which really boils down to why does the board seem to not want to take the recommendations made by the Charter Review Committee and the recommendations of the voters when they put these questions to the ballot. So hopefully we'll get a chance to discuss those a little bit more, have some lively discourse, and figure out how best to move forward there. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at atorpey@southorange.org or come into my office hours every Tuesday afternoon. Thanks again for tuning in to this video update, and I hope to talk to you soon. Take care.